On the 14th, the Son of God was crucified. Passover. He was placed in the grave. But there was no decay. There was no rotting. There was no spoiling. It was perfect. Because on the next day, you know what happens? On the 16th, oh, you're so good at math. 14th, 15th, what comes next? Oh, you're not sure, some of you. You don't have your... Look, on the 14th was Passover, the 15th was the Feast of Unleavened Bread. It goes for 7 days, but it starts on the 15th. The next day is first fruit. You know what first fruit is? It's when the first of the barley comes out of the ground. 14th, 15th, 16th, 3 days in the grave. And when he comes out of the grave, you know what? It was perfect. There was no blemish. There was no imperfection. His body did not decay or rot or spoil while he was in the grave. He came out of the grave perfect. Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and first fruits. You know what this would happen? They would take the first of the barley harvest with the first fruits. They'd watch it. They actually had we know in the time of Christ, they had a place right outside the city walls where they raised barley in the springtime, the first crop to come out of the ground, the first fruit to come up. They would cut it, because that's what they're commanded to do. They'd take it to the temple on Mount Moriah, and they would wave it before the Lord, and the Lord would accept the barley, the first fruit to come out of the ground, and the Lord would accept it. And it was the guarantee that there would be more that comes out of the ground. You. He was the first fruit. He conquered death. He was resurrected. He was raised unblemished. He was the first fruit. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, the Apostle Paul has to deal with the doctrine of bodily resurrection. Why say some among you in the Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 15, why say some among you there is no resurrection of the dead? If there is no resurrection of the dead, then I'm a liar, because I preach to you the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ. It goes all the way down to show resurrection. And then he says, 1 Corinthians 15. He's dealing with resurrection of the dead, of believers, all believers. And then Paul says, Christ the first fruit, then those who belong to him at his coming will be resurrected from the grave. You can't get better theology. 14th, 15th, 16th, his death, his burial, his resurrection.